Hello, my name is Rebecca Savyuk and welcome to the online lecture on coaching contextual domains. The aim of today's class is threefold. We will start by introducing the idea of coaching expertise. Then we will move on to introduce and critically discuss and think about the idea of coaching domains. And then we will look at a workforce document which has introduced this idea to help shape coach education, which has been described as the 4x4 coach development model. Coaching. How do we, as students within the domain of sports coaching, measure or come to understand superior athletes or superior coaches? On the slide here there are two Wimbledon winners, Roger Federer and Andy Murray. I want you to take a moment to think about, if you had to put your hand up, which one of these is the superior athlete? Is it Roger Federer or is it Andy Murray? When you've made a decision, I want you to consider how you made it. What types of things did you take into account when you were trying to make that decision? Did you take into account trophies won? Did you take into account different statistics or measures of performance success? For example, aces, sets, games, Grand Slams. What were you taking into account when you made that decision? And then below those two athletes we've got two coaches, Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho. Which one of these coaches is superior? Again, I want you to think about, if you made a decision for Jose or Pep, what contributed towards that decision? Were you thinking about the achievement of the athletes, the wins? Were you thinking about the trophies? Were you thinking about the cups? Were you thinking about the amount of matches won, lost or drawn? Or were you thinking about effective communication, the ability to build positive, meaningful, life-changing relationships? Were you thinking about the ability to coach holistically? Were you thinking about the ability to manage their kind of multidisciplinary staff team well? Were you thinking about their ability to manage their own health and mental well-being? My next question to you to reflect on and think about is, which one of those decisions was easier to make? Was it easier to identify the superior athlete or the superior coach? I guess one of the points I'm making here is trying to see coaching expertise or think about a superior coach perhaps is not as obvious as it might be to see the superior athlete. If we're trying to connect to the key messages from the slide previous, perhaps the superior athlete is readily distinguishable from their less accomplished counterpart. Superior athletes simply go about the task of sport performance at a higher level of proficiency and with consistently greater results. Superior athletes in the main are faster, stronger, better skilled and demonstrate remarkable judgment. But turn your eye to the coaches on either side of the pitch or court and it is far more challenging to detect the subtleties that characterize coaches who consistently outperform their coaching peers. It is important to understand the differences between those who find ways to guide their athletes to success time after time and those who do not. In recent years, a growing body of researchers has contributed greatly to identifying the characteristics, skills, and knowledge often distinguish the good coaches from the great coaches. Research has, for example, revealed that expert coaches see things differently from the less expert coaches. But what exactly do they see? Research also reveals that expert coaches, for the most part, say the right thing to the right player at the right time. Now, the ability to use your previous experiences, your intuition, your gut feeling in moments of chaos or complexity can be really challenging. And often the art in getting that right is built up through our experiential learning within the field of sports coaching. The results achieved by expert coaches over time suggest that in the main, so for the most part, they know when and how to make the decisions that lead an athlete or team to success. But do we understand how expert coaches make these decisions? That, for the most part, is somewhat problematic. On this slide, I wanted to make the point really that there is no substitute for experience in our quest as coaches to develop our expertise. Now, simply put, no one achieves expertise in coaching without substantial experience. So years of experience in different roles, in different spaces, for different organisational purpose. There is no empirical evidence to support the notion that an inexperienced coach can consistently outperform a coach with extensive experience. Now, if we link that to 10 years in most fields to reach an expert level, which is what Erickson 98 suggests, research has repeatedly revealed that it takes extensive experience, a minimum of 10 years, to reach that of the level of an expert. While it takes more than just experience, clearly one cannot become an expert without substantial experience in one's craft. And I'm sure most of you can connect and are aware of the 10,000 hours or 10-year rule. And I would encourage you to think about that more critically. What if we did the same hour of practice or the same session 10,000 times? Would we really be an expert coach? And I think what we have to start to think about is, what are we becoming an expert in, and what are we doing in our 10-year period, or what are we doing in our 10,000 hours? Now, what I mean by that is, are we working in a participation context, grassroots? Are we working development? Are we working with adults? Are we working with elite? Are we an assistant coach? Are we a head coach? Do we have to manage and take responsibility of other staff members? So, although we're talking about becoming an expert in the field of coaching generically, we have to start to think about the roles we have across our 10,000 hours. How do we continue to step outside of our comfort zone to keep making the things that we are uncomfortable with become comfortable? I might spend my 10 years working with under 10s, developmental context. I might be really, really good at that. So do I become an expert coach, or do I become an expert in the development coaching of 10-year-olds? Now, when we're thinking about these coaches who have that ability to win and sustain winning and success over long periods of time, They've mastered the skill of learning from their experiences, their practice dilemmas, their critical encounters with people or coaches of influence, and they're able to draw and take on knowledge from these different sources: people, context, athletes, courses, online seminars, attending a conference, a critical conversation. They're able to internally decipher: do we want to take on that kind of information? Do we accept it and include it, or do we reject it and decide that it doesn't fit into who I am and my coaching philosophical role frame, or the organisation that I'm currently working for and representing? Now, to be considered an expert coach, a coach must prove it in the practical experience of coaching. One's record of success and failure is forged in the experiences a coach has as a coach. And the best coaches have established the best records, consistently outperforming peers over time. Now, when we're thinking about this idea of an expert coach and where they derive their experience from, this coaching experience must be different people, situations, and purpose. And if we have a variety of learning experiences and critical encounters, we're likely to benefit from having more breadth and scope in our expertise. The experience, and actually us going out into the field of coaching and doing and thinking, is critical, but clearly not a singular key to developing expertise. Coaches, in practice, thoughtfully analyse key events in their experience. Or we can identify coaches who are role models we look up to, and we try and take key bits of their practice and put into our own. We try to evaluate and critique the quality of performance or coaching sessions that we see. We try to decipher and understand what was good or effective, what we could do better. We try to suggest and think about different insights to help us improve the performance of our athletes. However, perhaps reflection of our limited experience, for example, a novice coach in a real-world experience, the most important source of information for increasing expertise is going to be their experiences. If we're thinking about that individual, a novice coach with limited knowledge and experience only has their limited experience and knowledge to reflect on. So at the start, perhaps, this is a more challenging process. Now, experience alone will neither increase expertise nor improve a coach's record of success. What we need to think about is deliberate, systematic, continual change that brings about improvements leading to expert performance. Experience is, of course, critical, but clearly not a singular key to developing expertise. In addition to extensive experience, great coaches share two other characteristics. One, extensive knowledge and highly developed coaching skills. Now, there are many lessons for developing coaches in knowing what an expert coach knows and how they come to know it. experts make a significant investment in learning all they can about their subject, athletes, and coaching. Now, we might attend workshops, clinics, conferences in our sport. We will go and observe expert coaches coach in their practice. We might attend conferences to see expert coaches talk across multidisciplined areas. But experts are also learners in these contexts. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but we know from our study of these extraordinary coaches that while it appears experts are the least likely to benefit from attending a workshop, they become expert because they engage with these opportunities to learn more frequently than anyone at any time. Now, this point was pressed upon, or kind of first mentioned, when you're thinking about the highly successful American football coach Bobby Bowden. And there's a photo of him here on the screen. After listening to a coach for a lengthy period of time, Coach Bowden was asked why he listened so intently to someone who was not as accomplished as him, less experienced, fewer qualifications, less success. And his response was quite simply, well, you never know where the next great idea is going to come from. And I've decided to include that quote here because for me, I think there's a lot of real meaning behind it. And I think in part it comes down to our mindset and motivations for engaging with learning sources or learning opportunities. No matter how much success or how accomplished we think we are, we still need to have an open mind, an open mindset when we're looking at practice, engaging with education. Otherwise, we will be contributing towards our own non-learning within coach education settings.